Welcome to the Victorian Instruction Manual. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what has Stonehenge got to do with the Victorians? Well, I have this book called The Visitor, or Monthly Instructor for 1842, and it's a collection of articles from 1842, many of them on a religious theme. However, one article was written by a writer who visited Stonehenge, and it's a nice read. So bear in mind, this is 1842, so when this book was written, Queen Victoria was only 23 years old, having been Queen of England and the growing empire for just 5 years. Now trains looked like this. It became illegal to work in mines if you were under 10 years old, and the horse that won the Grand National was called Gaylak, and that meant something completely different back then. Hong Kong became a British colony after the signing of the Treaty of Nanking between Britain and China at the end of the First Opium War. So there you go, 1842 was 176 years ago, and Stonehenge wasn't next to a main road. The only way to see Stonehenge back then was by one of the many tracks that I'm standing on in this footage. Now it's possible that the writer of the article, as they came over the hill, saw this view of Stonehenge. They may even have been on this very track. Minus the road, of course, they wouldn't have seen the main road. Now let me read you a little bit of what they say as they see Stonehenge. Now it starts off with them talking about a lot of facts of Stonehenge, some of which are completely wrong. For instance, they say that it may have been built for Alfred the Great, and it wasn't, it's much older. But the nicest part of the article is when they come over the hill on one of these tracks and they see Stonehenge for the first time. And they're using exclamation marks here. They say, Stonehenge, Stonehenge, there it is although but dimly descried. I draw my breath shorter and hurry on impatiently. This distant glance is in itself a luxury. To have seen Stonehenge is a privilege that none can take from me now. There is satisfaction in the thought. What a place is this on which to erect a temple so remote from all appearance of population. You really get a sense of how privileged they feel having seen Stonehenge in person. Nowadays, as I say, it's right next to a main road. We get buses full of people come from London every day to look at the stones. People come from all over the world. It's really easy to see. But back in 1842, 176 years ago, you probably had to do a fair amount of walking. After they've written that, they then go to the centre of the stones. This is what they have to say. They say, I am now in the centre of this mysterious ruin, so unlike any I have ever seen. Now I could read the whole article to you, but that seems a bit pointless. What I'll do instead, I'll put scans of it on my blog and you can read it from there, and that's jasoncrick.com. Now it's summer now, so Stonehenge looks really great, so I'm assuming that the person that wrote the article visited in good weather, because if it had been winter it would have looked like this. Stonehenge, Stonehenge, I can't feel my lips. Now what I thought I would do is tell you some facts about Stonehenge that not everyone is aware of. Now most people, when they think about Stonehenge, they think temple, alien spaceship docking platform, or magic and all that rubbish. So fact number 1. Actually, I'm not going to number these facts. This isn't a top 10 list, so I don't want to number everything like some people do. So my first fact is that every stone has a number. Yeah, I'm back on numbers again. Anyway, the tallest stone is called Stone 56. Now if you want to know why they're numbered, go and Google it. I'm not going to tell you. Now for mostly safety reasons, a lot of stone resetting was done in the 1950s. Some idiots used the photos of that to prove that it was built in the 1950s, but that's not the case. They were just resetting some loose stones and uprighting some that they knew had fallen over. So stones were only set in places that they were sure they'd originally come from. It is possibly a coincidence that the heel stone, which is that one there, is aligned to the summer solstice. There's no proof for or against this really. The reason it could be a coincidence is because it was there before all the big stones. There was a circular ditch and 56 wooden posts, which are now called the Aubrey holes, and the heel stone was there. So it could be a coincidence that it lines up with the solstice. Mainly because those 56 posts may have been aligned to the moon, and you get eclipses of the moon when it goes in front of the sun. Now Stonehenge is built on a slope, so an upright on one side, say stone 23, is 12.5 feet high, whilst further down the slope, stone 4 is 14 feet high. Now it has been suggested if you put a spirit level across the top, it would not drop by more than a couple of centimetres. Now this can't be tested because some of the outer ring stones were reset in the 1920s, so their height might have changed a little bit. Now have you ever wondered what the top of the stones looked like close up? I did. There are lots of aerial photographs and lots of land-based photographs, but I wanted to see the stones on the tops close up. so I built myself the mother of all selfie sticks. Now, bearing in mind the height of these stones, I had to strap a few poles together to get my camera high enough, but it was well worth the hassle. It's like being a giant. Now, another fact you might not know, no one is allowed to fly directly over Stonehenge, not even the military who are locally based. Their aircraft do a nice S shape around it. Now, the earliest graffiti carved into the stones is Bronze Age. Now, here are some Bronze Age daggers. The worn areas around them are actually lots more daggers and arrowheads, a lot more than you can see here. Now, here's the same stone seen from the visitor's pathway. So if you do pay to go and stand on the pathway, you can look at that stone, and on a nice day when the sun is shining across the stone, you can see those daggers. This graffiti is believed to be Sir Christopher Wren, architect of St Paul's Cathedral. Now, the dome of St Paul's Cathedral is the same diameter as Stonehenge. That's depending on which part of Stonehenge you measure and whether you measure the outer or inner dome of the cathedral. So let's have a look at this photo that I took with my huge selfie stick. Now, have you ever wondered which are the Sarsens and which are the blue stones? There you go. Everything not blue is a Sarsen. Now, we're at a height of about 21 feet looking down on stone 101, a lintel on the outer ring. The interesting thing about this lintel is that it's on the solstice alignment, so we're actually looking towards the winter solstice sunset. Now, we're looking more or less towards the track where I was at the beginning of this video. There you go, there's me on the track looking at Stonehenge. Now, the summer solstice happens behind us. Bear in mind that the summer solstice is a sunrise and the winter solstice is a sunset. Now, this is what the winter solstice looks like. Anywho, back to the lintel. Those two holes you can see in the top of the stone do seem to align with the solstices, but that could be a coincidence because they may just be natural erosion. Now, let's look past this lintel at the stones beyond, and let's number them. Now, stone 56 is the tallest stone at a height of around 21.5 feet. The tenon on the top of that stone adds an extra foot to its height. These are probably the oldest mortise and tenon joints in the world. Now, what we're looking at is part of the inner horseshoe, and each set of stones is called a trilithon. So unlike the outer ring, where we assume the lintels joined up all the way round, the inner horseshoe was just 5 sets of trilithons. Now, trilithon just means 3 stones. There we go, there's a picture showing you what a trilithon looks like. You'll notice a pattern in the way the stones are numbered. Lintels are numbered after the upright with the highest number plus 100. So the lintel on top of stones 53 and 54 is called 154, 154. Now look at stone 56. You'll notice that 55 has fallen over. It's actually in 2 pieces called 55A and 55B. And 156 is lying next to it. So 156 is the lintel that sat across stones 55 and 56. You can see the mortise holes in stone 156 where it sat on those tenons. This means that the stones also formed a trilithon, and this is often called the Great Trilithon because it was the tallest. And if you excuse my crude photo manipulation, it would have looked a little bit like this. This trilithon would have been just over 25 feet tall. Bear in mind that up to a third of those stones is underground. You get an idea of how big those stones actually are. Now, if we look at stone 57 over on the right there, if I stood on the other side of stone 57, I would look like this. Remember when I said that resetting work was done in the 1950s? We can number those stones. Now, the reason 158 is more rounded than 154, both lintels, is because 158 spent roughly 160 years lying on the floor after the entire trilithon of stones 57, 58 and 158, they all fell over. And that was in 1798, and funnily enough it was put back up in 1958, all the 8s. So I hope this glimpse into Stonehenge has been of interest. There's obviously a lot more to Stonehenge that you can learn about, and there's lots of archaeologists and scientists out there constantly learning new things. And you don't have to pay to see the stones, just walk down the nearby byway and enter the National Trust field. The staff on the gate will be happy to tell you how to get to it. Now, your view from that National Trust fence line is on the solstice alignment, so you're getting a really good view. That's it for my Stonehenge video. Now, from this book, in 1842, we have a person who visited Stonehenge and was absolutely spellbound by it. They had no idea what it was for, Now in my mind, if we never find the answers to some of those questions, that won't be a bad thing. That's what makes the mystery of Stonehenge so appealing. We just don't know, and the good thing about science is that it's okay to say we don't know. We just need to avoid making up rubbish and treating it as fact. Thank you for watching. Click like, subscribe, and for the scans of the book, head over to jasonquick.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.